So the Baltimore Ravens are signing Deandre Hopkins to a 1-year, $5 million contract. Very good deal for the Ravens. I'm glad they didn't give Hopkins 10 or 15 mil or anything like that. I feel like 5 mil is pretty fair in a sense, even though 5 mil is kind of a lot of money for DeAndre Hopkins at this point in time, but it is what it is. The salary cap just keeps going up and up, so I guess 5 mil is essentially like the vet minimum to a certain extent. But yeah, man, a very Ravens move here indeed. I just feel like they love signing over the hill, once great wide receivers. Shout out Dez Bryant, shout out OBJ. So Ravens fans, let me know what you think about this move. Does this move fire you up at all? Are you excited or do you not really care? This to me is a nothing burger sort of move. DeAndre looked really good when he first got traded to the Chiefs. His first 4 games, it looked like him and Patty Mahomes were going to do something historic together. But once it was late in the season and in the playoffs, I don't know what happened. They just didn't really have a connection at all. It's just like they stalled out and it didn't work. I don't know if he's going to develop a good connection with Lamar Jackson. I do, in theory, kind of like how they added another wide receiver to take some attention off of Zay Flowers to a certain extent. But I just feel like we've seen this before, and I just don't think he's going to be very productive. I think it's going to be similar to what OBJ was when he was with the Ravens. You know, just a couple catches per game, a couple clutch catches per game, and that's about it. But hey, if you think that's worth 5 mil, then fair play. I guess it kind of does make sense if you are competitive and you're a playoff team to have a clutch guy you can go to a couple times per game. You know, that's not a bad thing, I guess. But I don't know, man. The Ravens are kind of in a tough spot. I don't really see them beating the Chiefs or the Buffalo Bills in 2025. That's just how I see it. They haven't been super active in free agency. Hypothetically, they could have a great draft and, you know, halfway through the 2025 season, we could be talking about how the Ravens are super serious Super Bowl contenders with Lamar and Derrick Henry and blah, 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 blah. I could totally see that happening, but on paper, man, AFC is a lot more competitive than the NFC right now, in my opinion. Of course, you have the Bills, you have KC, but I think there's a lot of other teams that are up and coming. You have the LA Chargers, you have the Houston Texans, and you have the Denver Broncos. I think all 3 of those teams are going to be better than what they were in 2025. There are some questions in Houston, absolutely, with them just revamping their O-line, so we'll have to see how that plays out. But hypothetically, if they get it together and they have an improved O-line, I totally expect the Houston Texans to take the next step and potentially make an AFC Championship appearance. I feel like they're totally capable of doing that. Same thing with the Chargers. I know Justin Herbert 0-2 in the playoffs, but pretty impressive for what Jim Harbaugh did with his first year with the Chargers, and I just expect him to build off of that first year. So you have to think they're going to make a deeper playoff run in the next 2-3 years. I just think the Ravens had their chance to make the Super Bowl 2 years ago. In my opinion, the AFC was a lot less competitive, but, you know, let me know if you agree with me. And I think the Denver Broncos are a serious dark horse going into 2025. You know, Bo Nix's first year with Sean Payton, playoff appearance, first time in almost 10 years. And that defense looked amazing a year ago. Best pass rush in the league, most sacks in the league. They just added 2 ex-49er players that are pretty good. If they have another good draft this year, I mean, that defense is going to be good again. Bo Nix's second year in the NFL, so you have to think he's going to be even better than what he was. I mean, he was in contention for Rookie of the Year at one point. So I think the Broncos could be pretty scary in 2025 and 2026. And I guess you can't really count out Joe Burrow, even though that defense is still going to be bad. As long as you have Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase, 2 Hall of Fame players, you can't really count them out. So, Ravens fans, talk to me. How do you feel about going into 2025? Do you feel like you missed your Super Bowl window, or do you think it's still open? Let me know in the comments below. But there definitely is a silver lining for the Ravens' kind of longevity of them being competitive and them potentially making a Super Bowl run, and it's the fact that they're in the AFC North. You know, the Browns are the Browns. They're going to be in purgatory for the next 2-3 years at least, so they're not to be taken seriously at all. And then you have the Bengals, which, like I just mentioned, Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, you can never count them out, but I mean, have they done anything to improve that defense this offseason at all? No. Because they have a cheap owner and they don't like to spend money. Instead of spending money on a defender or just anything, they instead opted to re-sign their tight end, Mike Gesicki. Sure, he's an above-average player, but when money's already tight, you decide to spend it on a tight end. I don't like that move at all. So yeah, they could make a playoff bubble sort of run like they did in 2024, but I don't think they're going to be like a powerhouse in 2025. And then you have the Pittsburgh Steelers, man. You know, just added DK Metcalf, you have George Pickens there. You still have a pretty good defense and TJ Watt and whatnot. But who's their quarterback going to be? Is it going to be Aaron Rodgers? Is it going to be Russell Wilson? Are they going to draft a guy? Not sure. So, a big question mark there as well. So yeah, I mean, the Ravens should be AFC North champions once again. And it should be this way for the next 2-3 years because Browns aren't doing anything. Bengals, who knows, maybe Joe Burrow might request a trade out of Cincinnati depending on how the next 2 years go. And Pittsburgh, until they draft a quarterback, until they get Mike Tomlin out of there, I don't see them ever being a powerhouse either. But who knows? Anything could happen with them. So you can never really count them out. But the point being is, this is the Ravens' division to lose until further notice. So even if they're out of their Super Bowl window and this and that, they're still essentially a lock to make the playoffs for the next 2-3 years. And once you make the playoffs, if you have Derrick Henry, if you have an MVP candidate like Lamar Jackson has been consistently doing over his career, I guess in theory anything is possible. So I might not be too high on them in 2025, but then again, the NFL is crazy, life is crazy. Who knows, maybe they could shock the world and Lamar Jackson can make a Super Bowl berth. Based on his performance against the Bills in 2024, I don't see that happening. I really don't. I just think he's a choker once it comes to January. But maybe he's seeing a psychiatrist right now and getting over that mental hurdle. I don't know, man. Trying to be optimistic, but it is what it is. Let me know if you agree with me. Let me know what you think about DeAndre Hopkins, the Ravens' future, and everything else in between. If you made this far, please subscribe and like the vid. It'd help out your boy a ton. That's all I got for right now. Peace.
Johnson's one of the best receivers in the NFL. He can run all the routes. How about this out route that time? Does it with such grace and ease and makes the catch just short of the first down.